Hey guys, happy Wednesday. So excited to be here with you all. If you haven't been to one of our weekly nutrition talks, bi-weekly nutrition talks, my name is Allie. I'm a registered dietitian and I work with EatLove and Member Success. And I'll be doing your presentation today. We're going to do all things Nutrition 101 times heart health. We're going to put a heart health spin on it because February was National Heart Health Month. And I think it's a really important topic that kind of gets overlooked sometimes. So we're going to focus a little bit on that. Lots of good nutrition that we're going to focus on today, and then do a little 5 to 10 minute demo of EatLove. And I'm super excited to, hi Craig, welcome. Where are you from? I think we have 7 of you on today live so far. Fantastic. We had a good bit of signups. This is another really popular topic. I don't think anything's going to beat that post nutrition workout. That was a huge webinar. I think we had 30 people live on. So very popular. I'm gonna make you guys heart health fanatics after that. Fort Lauderdale, fantastic. I bet the weather is amazing. Awesome. So before we get started today, we have a couple more filing in. Just want to do a quick poll. I always like to start polls because I know we get a lot of new participants at these webinars, just to kind of get a sense of how you guys are feeling. Do you often run out of meal ideas or what to eat? So let's hear a little bit here. It is. I'm super jealous. Often, sometimes, split 50-50 right now. Yeah, the toughest question, I will say, what's for dinner? And then you get that in multiple different variations from your entire family. So it's really hard to answer that question on a nightly basis. So at the end of our presentation today, we're going to just look at how many considerations have to go into meal planning, and then how we can help you kind of crush that every single night of the week towards your goals. So let's get started. We now have a good bit of you on live. Keep coming in. Let me know where you guys are from. I only see Craig so far, so I'd love to see some more faces, or names to faces. I can't see all of you, but all right, let's jump in. Do not delete. I always hit delete presentation before I hit start. So Nutrition 101 and heart health. So let's dive in today. So on the map, we're going to do you and your heart. This is just to give you some fast facts. It may not be something that you're necessarily concerned with right now, but you will soon find that cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer for women, and it's either first or second for men. It's a very distinct roadmap you can put yourself onto better health, and it doesn't start at diagnosis. It starts to the precursors, the precursor diagnoses. Prediabetes, diabetes, high cholesterol, hypertension, those all feed into these larger conditions that we have the power to stop in its tracks right now. So this is a very critical time to do that. So we're going to focus on what foods to incorporate less of. We're going to start with the more negative side and go into the more positive side, because I never want to leave on that negative note. I always talk about things that you can get more of in your diet. How to cook and prepare heart healthy meals, not just for heart health. This is going to encompass everything for Nutrition 101, as well as grocery shopping tips, dining out strategies, and then of course, meal planning considerations. So first and foremost, some fast facts, you and your heart. As I mentioned, cardiovascular disease is the leading global cause of death, accounting for 17.3 million deaths per year. That is a huge number. I want you guys to sit and think about that for a little. If you knew then, let's say then is the future, what you know now, or what you will know now, to have the ability to stop that track, to get on a different path, and to take control of your health, you'd want to know it. So notable CVD preventable interventions. Of course, we're going to talk about all things diet today, but we cannot overlook stress management, sleep hygiene, and regular physical activity and exercise, which you are all doing at UFit currently. So all 4 of these pillars together, 2 of them, we can account for them. Stress and sleep, I don't know where you guys are with stress and sleep, but we can't overlook them for sure. So I definitely encourage you to take a peek at what your overall mental picture is, physical picture for these 4 pillars right here. And then of course, it's crucial to visit your doctor and get those annual appropriate tests and lab work done. The last thing that we want is to get to the doctor and have a bombshell diagnosis of something that we would have liked to know a year ago. We would have liked to know prediabetes before it became diabetes. We'd like to know pre-hypertensive before it became hypertension. So all of these things really play into that. So never want to overlook that piece either. All right, not meant to scare anybody, just meant to put facts with numbers and to know that you have the ability to control your overall health starting today. So let's look at our macronutrient breakdown. I'm going to refer back to this pie chart a lot today because I want you all to see what our daily breakdown looks like. So when we're looking at our macros, you all know proteins, fats, and carbs is what's going to be your main macro breakdown. These are the macronutrients, what make up our diet primarily. Then, of course, we have our micros. But starting with our macros, 45 to 65% of our diet is going to be coming from carbs. 10 to 35% is going to be coming from protein, and 15 to 35% or 20 to 35% is going to be coming from fat. Since this is a perfect pie chart that equals 100, I could only do one range here, but this could be higher, this could be higher, this could also be higher, they could also be lower. Depends on what your goals are and your nutrition. But when we go over these foods that we want to get less of in our diet, carbs get a really bad rep. And I want to break down the quality of those carbohydrates. We're going to talk about refined carbs first, but we still are going to get carbs the most significant piece of our diet. These are still going to be what we're getting the most of, but I'm going to show you how that looks differently when you're looking at your overall health picture and what your overall picture when it comes to just heart health in general, anti-inflammation, diabetes, PCOS, any one of these conditions. These carbs are still going to be our number one macronutrient based on the makeup of what the good quality carbs look like. Then, of course, we have our fat. We have saturated fat. We have unsaturated fat. We have those trans fat pieces too. We'll hit on all of those today. Just a little brief overview so you guys are never confused by, which fat's good fat, which fat should I get less of, what fat should I get more of. And then proteins, we will leave for our presentation in just a few weeks here that we'll dive into protein a bit more, but it's still very important. Some of our fat foods, salmon, fatty fish is going to have a lot of protein, but we'll make that the focus of our following webinar. So let's dive into the nutrients that are contributing to poor heart health, not just poor heart health, poor health overall. When we get any one of these, and there's about 5 nutrients that we're going to talk about here, when we get these in overabundance, we are internally disrupting a lot of things going on in our physiology. For example, refined carbs are foods that are high amounts of simple sugars. These can raise your triglyceride levels. If you ever came back from your doctor and you're like, oh, your triglycerides were a bit high. This is a reason for that. If you are getting a diet high of refined carbohydrates, high triglycerides are going to be associated with coronary heart disease, another word for cardiovascular disease. Lots of different pseudonyms here of what that's recognized as. So some examples of refined carbohydrates are going to be table sugar, sweets, beverages, pastries, sugar sweetened beverages with added sugar. Anything that you see added sugar to, even your yogurts are going to have added sugars, some of them, most often. But whenever you see added sugars, know that that is a refined carbohydrate and you want to get moderate. You want to get a moderation of your refined carbs. You don't want it to be that this pie chart right here. You don't want this whole pie chart to be 45% refined carbs. That's when we get other implications down the line. Saturated fats, again, looking at this fat piece, we don't want all 30% of our fat of the day to be coming from saturated fat. These are going to be usually found in animal products associated with certain health risks. This is a big contributor to raised low-density lipoproteins, your LDL cholesterol. Your doctor probably refers to that as your bad cholesterol. And your good cholesterol would be your HDLs. I always think of it because H is before L in the alphabet, and good always comes first. I don't know. Research shows that limiting these saturated fats lowers your LDL cholesterol levels, which is what we want. We want a good ratio of HDL to LDL. And then we have our trans fats. These are any foods with hydrogenated oil, partially hydrogenated oils, included many prepackaged foods. These can be found in margarine, shortening, processed sweets, baked goods, some fried foods, and packaged foods made with hydrogenated oils. There are some caveats to trans fats, and I made a whole slide to review those in a bit more detail today. So the trans fats, as this lovely label on the right shows, there's 2 grams of trans fats in this particular product. I'm not even sure what this product is. But if we look at this nationally, trans fats have been removed from many foods sold on the market due to the negative impacts they can have on one's health, which is why they have been eliminated from most of our diets. We still have some natural trans fats. These are going to come from things like dairy and meat. I'm talking the hydrogenated oils, things that you can flip over your label, see that as an ingredient. And even though it's not listed on the label as having trans fats in it, know that trans fats are present in there because of this loophole that many manufacturers may still be getting away with. And that is if there is less than 0.5 grams of trans fats in the product, they actually don't have to put it on the label because it's just part of the loophole in the food politics world. So if it has 0.5, it would probably have to be round up to 1. But anything less, it could be 0.4999999, and it does not have to be on the label. And you could unknowingly be eating 2.5, 3 grams of trans fats in your day. So if you want to know if it's present, flip over that label and look for those ingredients that were on the slide prior. We don't know. It's really, really funny when it comes to nutrition is that in our lifetimes, we usually won't see something come out and blanket recommend to the entire population that something is good, that something is bad. Like we will never see in our lifetime a switch of one macronutrient being our primary fuel source. It just won't happen. It's that big of a piece. In our lifetime, we have seen that trans fatty acids have gone from, okay, we're going to use this to shelf life and make our foods last a little bit longer to let's get this the heck out of our foods because it is not doing us any favors. Because trans fats are going to increase total cholesterol levels. They're going to lower your good cholesterol, your HDL, and shows that an increase can provide risk for myocardial infarction, which is heart attack, and might be associated with increased inflammatory responses. So having inflammation in your body, if your doctor said your inflammation tests and labs are coming back high, could be due to an excess consumption of trans fat. So the recommendation is to get less than 2 grams a day. It's pretty easy if you're not eating a lot of processed foods. And hopefully one day more transparent food labeling. The last two on the what's contributing to poor heart health and just health overall is cholesterol and sodium. Cholesterol gets a funny reputation because our body also produces cholesterol. And our dietary intake will work with what our body is producing. You eat more, body makes less. You eat less, your body makes more. Sort of in this scale balance and perfectly aligned all the time. There are, of course, some outliers. If you have predisposition to high cholesterol in your family, one thing to take note of. But cholesterol is a substance carried through your bloodstream via lipoproteins, which are known as your transporters of fat. Some body functions need cholesterol to work properly, but again, too much can damage arteries and build up blood vessel linings, which can lead to heart attack and stroke. Dietary cholesterol is going to be found in what is nutrient-dense foods. Egg yolks, organ meats, animal fats, some dairy products. These are very nutrient dense. Doesn't mean you can't have them. Just needs you to be aware where you are getting these sources from. And actually the cholesterol used to be, I think, around 200 milligrams a day. That reading has now since come out of the dietary guidelines for Americans because knowing that, all right, our body makes it, dietary cholesterol may not affect us as much as we thought we did. It did in the past, but we still, again, want to be aware of it, knowing that these foods are extremely nutrient dense. Some of the best nutrients that you're looking for are going to be found in organ meats, egg yolks. So not to be canceled from your diet, to take note of. Sodium, probably the most popular one, I'd say, in all of these different nutrients, is that excess sodium can increase blood pressure, risk for heart disease and stroke. Effective reduction of sodium intake requires limiting the intake of highly processed foods. These are going to be like your snack goods, your crackers, your chips, anything that basically comes in a package. But you will be able to see how much sodium is in that label. And also the cooking preparation methods. But I will mention your intake of sodium is probably not exceeding because of the salt shaker. It's actually really hard to, if you oversalt your food, you're going to know, and it's going to be almost impossible to eat. That same amount of sodium can be put in a processed food and we really wouldn't even notice based on all the other processing that's done on that product. So good to know that maybe we don't need to remove the salt shaker first. We need to look at our other products that have a nutrition label that we can identify. Wow, did not know canned soup was going to have 800 milligrams per cup. Some of them do. Some other popular sources include deli and cured meats, breads, pizzas, sandwiches, and frozen prepared foods. The frozen prepared foods I want to make a note on. This is not flash frozen fruits and vegetables that come directly from harvest. This is, and I'm going to use Trader Joe's as an example here. The Trader Joe's, like vegetables that have sauces in them that you just heat up in the microwave or on the stovetop, those are prepared frozen foods. Those usually have a decent amount of sodium. So it's important to check the label on any one of those. But just like your frozen raspberries or your frozen Brussels sprouts, pretty much there's not going to be anything in them besides that food itself. So we talked about those topics and those foods, but where are we going to find them? Here is a summary here of foods that we want to reduce based on what is in those products, those nutrients themselves. So sugary beverages, red meats, processed frozen foods, fried foods, junk foods, highly refined carbs. I circled over here gimmicky supplements. This used to animate. I don't know why it's not today. Gimmicky supplements and weight loss foods and drinks, because they're not technically in the foods category, but they are in the red flag category. Gimmicky supplements for anything are going to be troublesome because they're not regulated by the FDA. So if you're taking some sort of supplement because you saw it in a magazine, or your best friend told you, or someone else told you that this was a really good idea, what you want to do with that is take that title of what that is, go to Google Scholar, type in that supplement and what you're hoping it will do for you. Because you can find an article online, positive and negative, pro your view, against your view, for any nutrition topic out there. That's why nutrition is so controversial. But if you want to take matters into your own hands and go back to Google search, Google Scholar, pine through that research yourself, I highly recommend it, because you're usually not going to find that a statement right now that says, yes, this is going to change your life. That's why nutrition takes forever. That's why, like I said, it's really hard to see new recommendations in our lifetime, because it takes years and years and years to prove the efficacy of something. So I highly recommend for that. And weight loss foods and drinks, weight loss meaning it's going to be low in calorie. In my opinion, low calorie is never the best option. We still need fuel. We still need energy. I always use the example here of the Fiber One brownies. When I was in college, those were all the rage. You would eat the Fiber One brownie and all of your brownie cravings would magically disappear. At least that's what we hoped. Absolutely not. It just made you want more brownies. So you end up eating 3 Fiber One brownies, which ended up being close to 300 calories, when I could have just had a smaller portion of the regular brownie that I actually wanted, and it would have been a better overall fit. So for all of this, these foods that are reduced, there are places for them in your diet. When I say reduce red meat, this just means if you're eating red meat for 5 nights a week, maybe you want to cut that back a bit. If you have heart health genetics that tell you that cholesterol may be an issue for you in 10 years from now, I would take a look at it. I would take a long and hard look on how you can support your health starting today. All right, so we talked enough about the negative. Let's move on to the positive and the heart healthy food groups. So we have a variety of vegetables, lean proteins, whole fruits, dairy, unsaturated fats, and whole grains is this last one down here. So these are beneficial for not only your whole overall diet, but heart healthy diet, because it has it has nutrients such as potassium, calcium, magnesium, omega-3s. The PUFAs and the MUFAs are your unsaturated fatty acids, your poly and your monounsaturated fatty acids. We talked about saturated, so we have trans, saturated, now we're on to unsaturated. This is where we want to get the majority of our fat intake. We see and we envision that pie chart from the beginning where 30% of our day is coming from fats. But how much is coming from saturated? How much is coming from mono? How much is coming from poly? Where's that trans falling in there? Hopefully that trans is really a tiny, tiny sliver, if anything. Should be very, very small amounts. And of course, fiber. So we're going to talk about fiber and monounsaturated fatty acids today. And if I had to put a name to a pattern like this is very Mediterranean focused in the framework, meaning getting more plants where we can. We are getting healthy fats. We are getting olive oil. We are getting, at the end of the day, more fruits and vegetables. We talk about it all the time and how nutrition can be drastically improved by getting more fruits and vegetables. All right. So fiber first. Let's talk about our soluble fiber. This is going to be found in plant cell walls, and when consumed can absorb water in the digestive tract to form a gel-like mass that will help lower cholesterol. Lowering cholesterol, keeping it maintained, helps heart health. So as fiber consumption increases, we should also consider increasing our water to prevent constipation. Just imagine your food mass going through your body, and by the time you just everything going through and it getting stuck there. You don't want that to happen. All right. Let's move on to the next one. So how much fiber should we get on our day-to-day? It depends if you are male or female. Minimum for women is going to be 25 grams. Minimum for men are going to be 38 grams a day. Usually, if you're eating a large plant-based diet, 25 is pretty easy to hit on a daily basis. But I will say from my own professional experience, fiber is one of the most underutilized nutrients of not getting enough of in our diets. We want to change. And we can get those from nuts, seeds, vegetables, fruits, whole grains. This by no means is an all-inclusive list. These are the most popular. If you are watching now or the replay, I encourage you all to pause the screen, take a screenshot of it, just so you know, where can I get fiber in my daily basis? The answer is always going to be plants. But sometimes we forget that nuts are plants, that legumes are plants, whole grains are plants. It's not just fruit and vegetable. So I would take a screenshot of this one so you can refer back to it later. I just looking at the poll now, and 100% of you, always, sometimes, or often, run out of meal ideas. So now we'll talk about the monounsaturated fats, the simpler complex fat. It's just a smaller molecule if we're looking at the chemical structure of it. So MUFAs appear to lower LDL levels without having negative effects on serum HDL, meaning it lowers our LDL and it will not touch our HDL. Remember, our HDL is our good cholesterol. We want that to be as high as possible. We want our LDLs to be as low as possible. So if we're getting something in our diets that is able to do both, and it happens to be a fat, by all means, let it be a fat. But not all fat is bad fat. Not, no fat is technically bad fat when we have it in the correct portions in our diet. So this monounsaturated fatty acids is recommended to be 20% of our total intake. So think about that 30% pie chart at the beginning. 20% is going to be monounsaturated fats. And here are some sources of those: avocados, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, canola oil, nuts, and all of the nuts to follow. So those are going to be sources of your monounsaturated fats. Your polyunsaturated fats are also associated with lowering your LDL levels and reducing your risk for CVD. This is recommended to have a total intake of 10% of your daily needs. So remember when I said fat could be up to 35 grams a day? Well, we want our saturated fat to be less than 10. So if our polys are 10 and our monos are 20 and our saturateds are 5, we hit that 35% and we're right there on target. Our foods that are going to be really high in polyunsaturated fatty acids are going to be our fish 2 to 3 times a week, albacore, tuna, salmon, herring, mackerel. These are going to be your best sources of omega-3 fatty acids that include the desirable EPA and DHA, which is known for cardioprotective benefits. So I do want to do one more poll here, and I will let you all vote on this. Wow. I work through grocery shopping. Perfect. And our lovely Kayla is working chat today, so she is putting some great tips and asking some good questions in our chat feature as well. So grocery shopping's tips and tricks. First and foremost, come prepared. Make sure you have a list. Make sure you know what you're coming to the grocery store to buy. It's going to avoid unwarranted purchases and things that aren't really going to be helpful to your long-term goals. Also, it goes off of this goal here that just don't shop on an empty stomach, not full stomach. Don't shop on an empty stomach because you're more likely to purchase things in the moment because you are actually just hungry. Shop the outer aisles first, starting with fruits and vegetables, and spend time in that produce section. Look for in-season options. There is nothing worse than an out-of-season vegetable. I lived in New York for 6 years, and I would constantly buy tomatoes in December. I don't know why I did that to myself, but they were discolored. They had almost no flavor. It was not worth it. So if you don't know what vegetables are in season for March, I would take it to Google, search March produce. You can even target it down by your location and, really test yourself. Get out of your comfort zone. Try things that you haven't tried before, but those in-season vegetables are going to pack a bigger nutrient punch. They're going to taste a lot better as well. And then while you're on the outer side of the grocery store, get your cut of lean meats, get your cut of leaner red meat, get your fish, pick that from the counters. Dairy is not going to be too far off of that, but shop the outer aisles first. And then when you get into the internal aisles, read the nutrition label. Anything that has a nutrition label, take a look, watch your sodium and saturated fat. Like I said, the processed foods is where the sodium is going to get you. It's not going to be the salt shaker. You would not be able to eat your food if you had that much salt on it. So read those labels first. Cans are okay. Cans are one of my favorite tips for just heart healthy or just convenience eating in general. But we want to make sure that the sodium and there's not a ton of packed oil in there either. Frozen and whole fruits help to reduce food waste. So, like I mentioned, picked at the peak of harvest, frozen fruits and vegetables, but not necessarily the prepared ones. They will have a little bit more stuff in them. So these will, the 6-ounce container of raspberries that are $7 that last 7 minutes, not really worth my money. But the 3-pound bag of raspberries that are $10 that last 3 months definitely are. Even if you want to put them in hot foods like oatmeal or on top of your cereal, just let them sit on your counter for a little bit and thaw, or even put them in the microwave so like a little bit warm. That's my favorite way to enjoy frozen foods, especially raspberries. Look for whole grains first in your bread products and your grains. So if you are looking for an easy way to start working on your general overall health, getting more fiber, look for whole grains in these products. If you see enriched flour as your first ingredient, it's not going to be a whole grain. Whole grain, whole wheat, whole, anything that starts with the word whole is going to be a whole grain. Note on whole grain, whole wheat. Whole wheat is a type of whole grain, but not all wheat is a whole grain. So something to keep in mind with that. And then, of course, create a pre-portioned snack drawer so that you can grab quick and easy things on the go that are supportive to your goals. All right, so leaner cooking options. Not only does the food that we select help, but how we prepare that food. So in no order of healthfulness, we'll say, we can bake and grill our meats and our poultries. They're usually just brush the pan, brushed over before you put on the grill. So little oil is used there. If we wanted to use water-based methods, poached and steamed are both using water only. You can cook eggs you can poach an egg, you can poach poultry, you can poach fish. There's not going to be any caramelization or any of these cool, really grill lines that go with it because there's no fat applied to that, just how you're cooking food and the chemical reactions that go with cooking. It's just going to cook it through. So I like to poach chicken and put it in like a buffalo chicken dip because it doesn't need to be perfect, just needs to be cooked through, and then everything else is going to take over in the flavor. So it's one way I can cut down on the actual meat in the preparation method, but then I have room to add a little bit more ranch or a little bit more, what else is in there? Hot sauce. Steamed will also use a water-based method. Sauteing vegetables will have a little bit of oil. Like I said, my blood basically runs with extra virgin olive oil, so I use large amounts of olive oil when I'm cooking vegetables, meats, and I like to saute things a lot. And then when we look at the canned goods, we know that they should be rinsed if we're trying to, of course, it's a can. You can look for low sodium. There may be no sodium bean canned options. I don't think I've ever seen any, but look for the 140 milligrams or less, no added sodium or sugars. And then going out to eat, tips and tricks. So look for lean proteins and whole foods. If you're looking for a roasted chicken, a nice cut of fish, you can get those at most restaurants when you go out to eat. Try smaller portion sizes. No shame in taking a doggy bag. Do it all the time. There's no point to getting overly full when you can enjoy that meal again the following day and not feel guilty for indulging when you wanted to. You eat a little bit of that main dish and then you save it for another day. And this is where you can do that, is you can double up on non-starchy vegetables. So have a side salad before you dig into your main dish. Be mindful of the bread basket. If you're having 2 slices of bread and no vegetables, maybe try 1 slice of bread and a side salad. Then dig into your main, and then take whatever left you want to take home the next day. Knowledge is power, so you want to plan ahead. Take a look at the menu. If you want to pair your appetizer to your main dish, you want to make sure that they are not the same thing. So burrata would be a cheese dish, and maybe you don't want like a creamy dish for your main because they're very similar. So you want to get a good variation of that. Let's see. Alternate your alcoholic beverages with water, and then to sauce or not to sauce. We want to be in control of how much is on there. So maybe you get your sauce on the side. That's always a good option. And then lastly is to enjoy the meal and savor each bite. This is a super important one. This is where we can be mindful of everything. And you want to be present as much as possible. So if you slow down, put your fork down in between bites, You may eat less, take the rest home, enjoy it the following day. Try fruits and nuts to go for dessert. I love going to Cheesecake Factory and getting my cheesecake to go. Their portions feed a small family. So I'm going to hop back into the polls. What's the most difficult thing about meal planning, which is time? So this is a really good segue into trouble with meal planning. We can plan with EatLove with ease. EatLove can help you plan. So think of all the topics that we covered today. We talked about conditions that contribute to increasing your risk for cardiovascular disease. Any one of these conditions, high cholesterol, hypertension, prediabetes, diabetes, PCOS, all could be considered precursors to a larger encompassing condition known as CVD. So even if, again, this is not something that you may be concerned with right now, but knowing if you're on that path, you can pause it, you can halt it, you can revert and head in a different direction. Not only eating for conditions, but eating for food allergies, likes, dislikes, your family, time, grocery shopping habits, medications and supplements, all of these go into meal planning, which makes sense why meal planning can be stressful and why it's a difficult question that sometimes we just go the easier route because we don't want to deal with it. So I'm going to flip over now and head over to EatLove. I love that you all are still watching. Thank you so much. So we're going to switch over here. I'm going to, if you guys are interested, here are some references for today's webinar. And I'm going to share my screen. All right. I'm going to flip over to EatLove. Just let me know in the chat if you all can see this okay. I've been having some issues with my shared screen, so I'm going to flip back in here. Looks like it's working. Craig, that's a great question. I hopefully I'll be able to get to that at the end. If not, I can send you an email. Perfect. Thank you, Tara. All right, so EatLove. How many of you have heard of EatLove? Just a show of hands that are listening today. How many of you have heard of EatLove, the service, our technology, the fact that you have access to this at UFit, part of your Premium Plus membership? So I'll let those come in while I get started. But basically what EatLove is, you're going to get a profile. You're going to be invited by your home gym. You're going to walk through an onboarding process. It's going to ask you your health condition, your lifestyle goals, your dietary preference, vegetarian, pescatarian, eats most things. It'll ask you to add your family members. It'll ask you how much time you want to spend on meals and basically spit out this Spotify meals playlist at the very end. So you can see today I'm logged into my desktop. We also have a really great app that you can take to the grocery store, check things off as you go, very comprehensive. But if you never want to answer the question, what's for dinner ever again, I highly consider giving EatLove a shot and showing what we can do. So I am going to show you exactly that today. So here's our Spotify meals playlist. I call it Spotify meals playlist because you can do everything that you would do on a meal Spotify playlist. You can swap it for something else. You can repeat it. You can skip it. You can go back to it. Lots of different things, but it's ongoing inspiration that never really stops. So what you can do, I love planning through the expanded view because I can see my week at a glance. I know exactly what I have planned for that day. But if I don't like something that I'm recommended here, the baked apples and cream, maybe I'm just like, not really feeling it today. If I swap with smart choices, I'm only going to be shown things that fit my nutrition prescription. So as you're filling out that profile at the very beginning, you're also getting a nutrition plan that tells you how much fiber to eat based on your gender, how many fruits, how many vegetables, how much saturated fat you should stay under, just everything that we talked about, sodium today. So those are going to go into your plan, and it's going to show you only the things that fit that nutrition prescription. So this overnight cherry oatmeal is going to speak my language tomorrow. But just so you can all visualize that nutrition prescription, here's my general healthy plan. So we talked about saturated fat and fiber and total fat and carbs and protein and vegetables and everything that we talked about here today. You get a personalized nutrition plan that helps you meet those goals without the headache of asking yourself, what is for dinner? When you've provisioned your list entirely, you can go ahead and check out. But I do want to show you one really cool thing for lunch. Let's say tomorrow you're on the run, you're hitting up a restaurant, We're the only technology that's going to show you how to build a burrito bowl based on your nutrition plan from Chipotle. I'm going to use Starbucks as an example. You can see my map here is downtown Austin. I'm going to hit Smart Goals, and I see everything in green is going to show me that it's a good choice. It's a good choice. It fits my nutrition plan. I'm not going to bust any targets by having this lemon crunch yogurt parfait. That fits in there. It'll also show you things that don't fit your goals. So if you have any questions on, can I have this one? It'll show you, yes, it fits, or no, it doesn't, and here's why. So this one is 6 grams of total fat over. Okay, well, what type of fat is it? You can actually see it from nutrition info. It'll show you exactly how much is in there. Where I was back up here somewhere. And you can also look at the ingredients and see, okay, well, there's peanut and coconut sauce. Coconut is a saturated fat, but it's a plant-based saturated fat. Peanut would be a monounsaturated fat. Just having yourself getting in the habit of looking at your food and identifying your macro sources. It's going to be a really helpful activity. So let's say we're ready to check out. You add everything to your grocery list. You go to your grocery cart up here. You have your smart grocery list. It's already done for you. Not to mention, it's scaled perfectly for those eating your meals when. So if I go check on my family and I check on meal preferences for who's eating what, okay, I'm eating all 3 meals except lunch, and I have 2 family members eating only dinner with me. And that's it. I don't have to worry about buying enough groceries to fit everyone's needs for every single meal if they're not eating with me. So it's going to help you reduce food costs. It's going to help you reduce food waste. It's going to help you inventory your kitchen before you overbuy cayenne pepper or cinnamon, which I do all the time. So things like condiments, you don't necessarily have to buy each week. And maybe walnuts you don't have to buy. Dried cherries, maybe you have frozen salmon. So checking off things as you go. And then when you're ready, you can purchase online through one of our partners, finish the process through their portal. You can also invite a family member. You can email it to yourself. You can take the app to the store. You can also add a la carte items that have nothing to do with the recipes that you've planned for, which makes it super easy to make this your all-encompassing grocery list for when you go to the grocery store. I can add chicken. Just like that. The other thing I wanted to show you was the recipe search. I'm going to remove some of these tags because I had other things tagged on for this particular profile. But if I have no avoidances, I'm going to see the whole 6,600 registered dietitian approved database. Here, we're updating recipes all the time. Our most recent additions are going to be these plates, these white plates with a protein and a carb and a starch. So you can see one of my favorite examples of this. It's going to be right here. Chicken brown rice with a salad. So if we take that pie chart at the very, very beginning today, and we look at it and we see, okay, 75% of our plate is plants. We have brown rice. We have tomatoes and cucumbers. 75%. Okay, that's why our carbs make up the biggest piece of it, because vegetables are carbohydrates. And that protein is going to be right here, that last quarter. So it helps you visualize. It also is super simple to make. We have instant brown rice, rotisserie chicken, things that novice chefs can do, people that are allergic to cooking, that want to get in the better routine of it, but don't want to be overwhelmed by fancy recipes. These modular style meals with the white plate background are going to be for you. And we have over 500 of them in this database. And then if you do like to experiment in the kitchen, you can always look for some of our more complicated recipes as well. This pine nut Parmesan salad is definitely speaking my language as a side for dinner next week. And then lastly, if you are someone that likes to track your food, we do have a food tracker. You can see I have added the foods that I've had today so far. It's asked me if I've eaten this. This, of course, was a test, so I didn't actually eat this one. But for dinner, I have on the menu high protein 5-spice chicken kebab with brown rice, of course. And at that time, it'll ask me if I eat it once dinner has arrived. There's a water tracker. There's a weight tracker. You can add your exercise notes. You can add individual food items like a foods database, very similar to MyFitnessPal, though our data is going to be a lot more accurate because it is used by the data from the USDA. So just keep that in mind. And it'll deduct from your daily totals. It'll show you when you are over a target. It'll tell you that you've busted it. Maybe that's fiber. I didn't even log lunch today, and there's 3 grams left, most likely going to bust fiber. That's a good thing. There's things that it's okay to go over, and other things like saturated fat, like we talked about, and sodium and added sugar that we want to stay under. So I'm going to end it there. I'm going to go back to our portal here. And I'm going to check in to see if any of you have any questions. I know you kept you a little bit longer today, but it was a very detailed topic. And I think it's going to be helpful for all of you, no matter what your health goals are, just general health, heart health if it is, but just general health as well. And then while you guys are typing that, Craig, I will go ahead and answer that question. So what foods don't create insulin spikes, and should we be conscious to help reduce them? So it's a great question. If you're familiar with the glycemic index chart, that's going to be a ranking of foods that spike blood sugar or insulin spikes. And what that does, I love it and I hate it at the same time, because of course, carbohydrates spike insulin. They're going to spike your sugars. They're going to spike your sugars because that's the effect of it. However, the way that we pair our foods makes the difference. So if we have this is where white rice and potatoes and refined or just white pasta, like not a whole grain pasta, just like a enriched pasta, get a really bad rep. And this is what I mean. When you are eating that, be mindful of it, but understand where you can do differently. So you pair your carbs with healthy fats and healthy proteins, and that spike comes down. Instead of going, oh, I had a white potato and that spikes, no one's really eating a white potato by itself. You wouldn't want to eat a white potato by itself. It's not a full meal. You want to pair that white potato with extra virgin olive oil on top, some seasoning, piece of meat, a vegetarian protein, whatever that looks like, but you want to make sure that you have a balance of your macros. And the balance of macros, like I showed you on that plate at the very end, looks very similar to the macro chart at the very, very beginning. We're going to have the majority of carbohydrates. That's fruit, vegetable, dairy, nuts, seeds, whole grains, beans, legumes are all carbohydrates. So we don't want them to get but yes, absolutely. Pairing is going to be the key. So we don't have to eliminate or fear carbohydrates, but we want to make sure that if we're eating a potato, we're not getting potato, rice, beans, and a butternut squash. They would all be the same thing. There's no protein, there's no fat in that. So looking for, okay, where am I getting my fat to this? What protein am I getting? Yep, exactly. What Kayla's saying here, the crash when you have to grab a cookie or cake from the break room at 3 o'clock. Yep, it happens. So pairing is 100% the key. You can balance and manage your blood sugars just by that information alone. It's ideal to have all 3 macros at your meals. Sometimes we can't do that at snacks, but at least 2. Like if you had a piece of fruit, maybe have a piece of fruit with a little bit of nuts, a little bit of seeds, a piece of cheese, something like that. But just what I encourage all of you to do, and I think I've talked about it before, is just to go through your fridge, your pantry, and to start identifying your macros in all of your foods. We know that dairy gives us proteins, fats, and carbs depending on the percent fat of the milk. If it's 2%, it's going to have a little bit less fat than it would be if it was a whole fat milk. Your chicken is going to be protein. There's no carbohydrates. The fat is lower, but it's primarily a protein. And then start envisioning how you pair your plate together. Anita K asking about tilapia fish. So tilapia, it's a real fish. It can be farm raised. So I guess that's what you're referring to, man-made. Depending on the source and quality, a lot of times a farmed fish gets also a really bad rep, like the hot dog of the sea is how I've heard tilapia referred to as. I would just look at your source and know that if you're eating that type of fish for certain nutrients like omega-3s, there's not going to be a lot present in it, but there's not going to be a lot present in many white fishes. Your omega-3s are going to be coming more so from your mackerel, your tuna, your salmon, or your big ones. Awesome. So you guys are still on. I love that. So of you, okay, Craig, you are, yes, haven't. Of those who haven't tried EatLove, how many of you are interested in giving it a shot? How many of you are, heading to the gym today and are like, all right, sign me up. I'm ready to get started with this. Craig, do I offer nutritional services? I've been looking for someone to consult with. Seems to be too many to choose from. Lots of misinformation, nutrition out there. I would recommend starting with the EatLove services through your gym. And then you have access to our Facebook group where myself and my colleague Kayla, who's also a registered dietitian, behind the scenes today answering all of your questions. You'll have access to us through these webinars, through these questions, through our Facebook group, which we do a recipe of the week. We do a conversation starter. I think today's question was, what's your favorite go-to breakfast? So things like that to kind of instill in the community and talk about it. So I would check there first. You get the harness of the technology, and then you still get us every 2 weeks and in here in the Facebook group. Amazing. Well, I will let you all go for today. Thank you so much for sticking around. This was a long one, but very important. Once you get the recording, please share with your loved ones. It's never too early to start taking heart health into consideration, but we'll be back in 2 weeks as we dive more into the protein side of it. So we talked a lot about fat and a lot about carbs today. We're going to talk more about protein at the next one. Seaweed extracts. Again, Anita, I would go to Google Scholar and check those out for yourself and see what the research, the hard research, not what the nutrition articles say in the trendy little journals. There are some positive research is how I can say positive. Is it something I would recommend over getting a fruit and vegetable? Definitely not. So I'd start with the basics first and build your way up. Awesome. Well, you all have a really great day. Have a great weekend if I don't talk to you soon. And I'll see ya.